Hey everyone, I'm driving here a little bit, so I figured I'd go over a little bit of something we do in our business and that I think would be helpful to a lot of other people. Something I'm going to talk about in this upcoming webinar we're doing on Tuesday. It's called Selling Without Selling, the 5 pillars of service sales, and it's the anti-sleazy selling system, which I love that. I just think that's great. But anyway, I think in the beginning, when you knock on the door and you first talk to people, and this applies to any service business, it could be, plumbing, electrical, tree care, whatever. Initially, obviously, you got to introduce yourself and that, but I think right away you want to kind of get some questions out. And so some of these questions could be, you're walking in the door and you're like, why did you call me? Or you're walking around with them, why did you call? So you want to get them to get down to the biggest motivation for the phone call. I have people say all the time in tree care, well, I just saw the neighbors got their trees trimmed, or I hear plumbers tell me like, oh, the neighbor just had a plumber at their house, or the neighbor had an electrician at their house. And so I thought I had a few things I needed to get fixed, right? But it's like, okay, cool. So that reminded you to maybe call me. But if your neighbor got a new t-shirt or new shoes, would you go get a new t-shirt, new shoes? You might, right? But there's still an underlying reason, and what I'm trying to find out is that reason, like the real reason. So people aren't just spending money most of the time because they just want to spend it, especially when it comes to like services, right? Like they have a concern. So are they worried about something? And that's what I want to know about. My whole proposal that I give them should handle that problem for sure. Another question I love to get out is, well, I'm here, I'm a board certified master arborist. Well, we're walking around looking at your trees. Would it be helpful to you if I pointed out any trees, or plants that I saw that you had problems with or that have problems? And they say yes. And this is a qualifying question too, because it tells you whether or not they're even interested in that service or not. Also, another one that's good in tree care is, have you hired a tree service before? And they go, yeah. And you're like, oh, why didn't you call them back? And they find that odd when I ask that question. So I say, I just asked that because I assume that maybe you weren't totally happy or you would have called them back. So I want to make sure I don't make that mistake. And then they think about it a bunch. And that could apply to something like a guy who sells gutter cleaning or gutter installation or plumbing or electrical. You could ask a question like, hey, you find out the why I'm here. And then, as I'm looking at things, would it be helpful to you if I pointed out that, maybe something was wired wrong if you were an electrician? Or would it be helpful to you if I noticed something was wrong with the way your plumbing was routed, or whatever it might be? Gutters, you could say like, would it be helpful to you if when we're walking around looking at your gutters or the lack of gutters, that I pointed out some issues that I see that maybe these gutters would handle or not handle, things like that. Imagine if you're a gutter cleaner, like you could get tons of gutter installation businesses if you're like, hey, would it be helpful to you if I pointed out these issues with your gutters while I'm cleaning your gutters? Like, that could be fixed. That could be extra service work that you could add on as extra stuff because it's actually causing a problem. But it tells you right then too, if they're an interested person, if they're interested in being educated, if they're interested in knowing, and those typically I find are always the better clients. Like the people that are just like, no, I'm not interested in any of that. They're super price conscious in my opinion. And they're afraid. They think that you're going to sell them something. So, at that point, you just got to keep asking questions. Eventually they'll warm up. If you keep asking questions, then they'll start talking, because asking questions makes them talk, which is what you want. Because then it becomes, you can learn things about them. You can get more in a personal relationship with people, which I think people want that, right? Like I see it all the time with companies. Like we had a good guy that cleaned our pool at our house, and he decided to start his own business, and we went with him because it's like, well, we're not with that company because of them. We're with them because of this guy. He's so great. So I think people want that like personal attention. They want a plumber that they deal with all the time. If they could call a plumbing company and they keep getting the same guy, they would like that, especially if they like the guy. But if you keep getting different guys, like it's hard to establish that relationship. And I think that relationship builds trust. Anyway, these are all things we're going to go over in this webinar. You guys should check it out. It might help you in your own business, but hopefully that kind of stuff will help you in your business, especially the why, right? Like the philosophy of why. What the why leads to so many things. Why am I doing this? Why am I here? Why didn't you hire the other guy? Why did you do it like this? Things like that. When did you move here? Even though that's a when question, not a why question. But a lot of why questions are good, because then it gives you an opportunity to explain things, because they're going to say, you could say, why did this get done this way? Or why did you do this? And they're like, well, I don't know. Is it wrong? I mean, maybe it's not wrong, or here's the thing, or you give them a little bit of education. And that education goes so far because it builds trust. So why? Ask why. It's great. Leads you down a lot of great roads. Have a great weekend.